Good morning, and today we're going to do a Q&A. And I know Q&As are boring. Let me explain. This is a hard questions only Q&A because I'm extremely open. I'm extremely fine with being vulnerable. I don't really know why. So all the questions, okay, center around 5 main themes, and that's marriage, that's parenting, that's sport, that's diet, and that's relationships. Let's go with the first few questions, which would be... Okay, so the first group of questions is all going to be about marriage and my relationship with my wife. Have you ever been close to divorce or separation due to time on the bikes? No. To me, divorce is not an option. We dated for 6 years before we got married. I chose you as you are. So all the downfalls and the issues you may have as a person, I've accepted those because what you offer as on the upside is outweighs it. Now, on her end, riding bikes isn't just a hobby. I have dedicated myself to her and my family so that she doesn't really have to work, that she can be a stay-at-home mom, that she can focus on whatever she wants to focus on, which is being an awesome mother. I'm a great father, right? I provide, I hit every single mark. I also am constantly trying to improve my value to the relationship. But again, divorce is never anything I would ever consider. And when I proposed to her and I said my vows, that was till death do us part, and I'm sticking to that. There's a couple questions like this. You're semi-famous. Do women throw themselves at you? No. And I've been open with my wife on this. I feel a little bummed that I have not had, no joke, not a single pass attempt at anyone over all the years. That kind of makes me feel like, well, maybe I'm not really a stud. But I will also say, I feel that that's a compliment that I portray such love and dedication to my family and my wife that that's not even a door that seems open. I don't broadcast myself as that kind of person. That if someone did come and say, hey, see, you're in my town and you're away from your wife, you want to meet up for a coffee? Right? That's just not even an option because the way I portray my relationships. But no, not once, not a single time. How do you deal with guilt or mental stress being away from the family, kids, wife? This kind of gets into parenting a little bit, but this is a conversation me and Kristen have had many times. I feel so guilty all the time. And my wife, Kristen, is so amazing and such a supporter that she always tells me, don't feel guilty. Stop it. And when I went to France, we actually had this huge conversation because I said, I want you guys to come with. I'm going to be in France for 2 weeks. Let's do this together. Logistically, it just wasn't going to work out. Also, extremely expensive. She'd actually sat me down and said, you have an opportunity for a once-in-a-lifetime experience. Do not think about us, worry about us, or stress about us. And I can't thank her enough for that because that experience in France changed my life because I was in a mode of not feeling guilty. Do you ever wonder what's out there having met your wife so young? So we got together at 18 and started a business together, and that's been our life. Now, I don't feel that I've missed out on anything because I partied hard as a teenager, and so did my wife. So we both sort of, we seem like well put together adults. We were not as kids. We were both just partying, doing drugs and drinking and just wiling it out. You think my wife is some goody two-shoe, very dude. She's a wild girl. She's insane. So we both sort of got that out of our system before we met each other. But so I've never once at all, once I married her, thought about another woman or another life or anything because of how amazing she is. And look, I don't want to be all I'm such a good husband and that kind of thing. Look, I was a piece of shit before I married her. Okay? So but something me and her talk about so often that I thank her for and love this relationship is we have no baggage. I don't have to worry about her exes. Like someone had said a question about like ex, how do you deal with exes? And it's like, well, my last ex was when I was 16. You know what I mean? So like we have no baggage. There is nothing there. Our life is so... Last one about the marriage. How often do you and Kristen fight over YouTube content, filming, family, writing, that sort of thing? Never. Look, this is my job now. And so would you fight with your spouse about going to work? Would you be like, I can't stand it. You go to work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday. Like, dude, this is my work. This is my job. And which is insane. I mean, I can't even believe that that's the case, but like, she has accepted that in a way that better than I have. Now, does she get frustrated? Yes. She doesn't spew that on me. People say a relationship is 50-50. It's not. It's 100-100. You have to give 100% of yourself to the relationship 100% of the time. As soon as you go, I'm going to go 95, then she goes 80, and then you go 70, and then 30, and then 10, and then 0 fucks are given. And so then it's like, well, I'm not going to be better for you because you're not better for me. And that structure, it's so easy to decay that. And so, look, when you're frustrated with your partner, you can voice your frustration in a way that's not fighting or anger or pointing fingers. Also, taking accountability. When I mess up, I have no problem saying I messed up. This was my fault and I apologize. And so it kind of diffuses the situation versus me being like, well, you did and I did and whoa. My relationship with Kristen is a fairy tale. It shouldn't exist. It should not exist. I don't understand it. She's my best friend. She's my soulmate, and I love her to death. Let's talk about kids. A question that was asked many times was about exposing my kids on social media. First off, for whatever reason, I have no issues with privacy. I don't really know why. I don't care. It's an issue because that's how I feel, but that's not how other people feel. And so I have a hard time sometimes understanding that is a problem for other people and they care about their privacy a lot. Like, it's a huge deal for a lot of people. My other justification of putting my kids in my videos is that I am almost certain that I will die by getting hit by a car. And this also kind of jumps into like, am I real, how am I off camera and stuff like that? I am exactly how I am in real life because I don't want my kids, if I passed away, for them to see, oh, that's fake dad. That's YouTube dad. That's not real dad. So I love having my kids in the videos. And it's not like I do that all the time. But when I put them in there, it's mainly as like a time capsule in case something really tragic happens later. It would be nice to have that. The last thing on this, I have talked to my son a lot about social media. He seems to not care about it at all. Dude doesn't care at all. Like, I'll post stuff of him riding and I'm like, dude, check this out. And he's like, eh. So he has, for whatever reason, no connection to social media, which is actually kind of cool. Does your son ever resent you for the time you take away from him? Man, this is hard because my son is so closed with his emotions that I don't know. And I try to talk to him about it and I try to explain what I'm doing. I try to say like, hey dude, I don't want to go travel riding bikes away from you. That's not like, oh yes, I get time away from him. I remind him almost daily that the thing I want to do the most in my life is to ride motorcycles with him all day long. And that everything I'm doing is to try to lend to that life. So if he does resent me, that's sort of out of my control. I do the best I can to provide for him while communicating what it is that I'm doing and reassuring him that I love him unconditionally and that I will give him every ounce of me when I can. These two ones are good. Has your relationship with your son changed over the span of his life? And would you ever change your parenting style with him? Yes and yes. So I've been pretty open about this. In the first couple years of his life, boy, was it a struggle because he was not me. Because like I always wanted to have a son. I wanted to be a dad. We chose to have him. It was not a mistake. You know, I just kind of fantasized about what that would be like for years and years and years. I mean, I had his name picked out for like 5 years before we had him. Athen, which is Greek for Athanasios, which means the immortal one. So my firstborn son, my name lives on, Athen, sick name. So for the first 4, 5, 6 years, I could not understand him. Everything he did made me so angry. He never gave his best. He never really tried. He would always quit. He was always soft. And it was just like, dude, what the hell? I had tried many different ways of parenting him for a very long time, but they were all my way. It was constantly me thinking he was me. It's been crazy, like it's been really difficult. In the last year, I've totally changed my shift of how I see him. I see him and the way he behaves and his attitude and his personality now as a gift, as an upside. I'm so happy he's different than me. Before I wasn't. Now it's like, dude, your style's totally different than mine. You know, the things you like, the things you want to do in life, everything you are is so different than me, and what a treat. What an amazing thing to have someone find their own way in life that isn't just riding my coattails, or like he just picks up my mannerisms or he does my things. Like he's his own person, and that rips now that I've changed the way I look at it. Is he happy? Then okay. And that's taken me 11 years to sort of figure that out. But now, every time he's different than me, I embrace it as such a positive. And in the last year, my relationship with him is skyrocketed. I mean, we are homies right now. But that all came down to me changing how I parented him. And that I was even willing to do that. Have you ever regretted having kids? So, not regretted having kids once, not ever. There's just something about fatherhood that matches with me perfectly, and I don't expect other people to feel the same way. But it just comes natural to me. It's something I really, really like. And also that's because I have a rock star of a wife to help me. Everything with them is better with them than without them. I only know this now, but I didn't want to have a daughter. I was so afraid to have a daughter. In high school, I saw a lot of very well brought up, religious, well-doing girls naked dancing on my pool table. So like, as a father of a daughter, yeah, I didn't want that. I didn't want to deal with that. I was so scared. I didn't know how to be a father. But dude, once I had my daughter is exactly like me, which is amazing. The difference between her and my son, and the combination between my family, her, my wife, her relationship with Athen, like everything is just so amazing. And it makes me almost sick to my stomach how much I did not want to have a daughter, and what that has done with my life. Like how now I understand women in a way I would have never understood before. All right, next one. Diet. This is everything about diet, plant-based, vegan. So here's the origin story basically, is that my wife got pregnant, and then we were like, oh my goodness, you're making a human being out of food. Like we're gonna put stuff in you, and then you're gonna make the brain of our kid. Should it be made out of McDonald's? Should his brain be made out of a Big Mac? Or should it be something better? So then we actually started watching a lot of documentaries like What the Health, Forks Over Knives. Well, one of the big principles we had found was Michael Pollan's eat whatever you want, just cook it yourself. And so then that's when we started our journey into health and off fast food, was we started cooking our own food. I want a double bacon cheeseburger with French fries. Cool. Let's cook it ourselves. So then I started touching the food, having a relationship with the food, actually getting the meat. And so now do you want the bargain bin beef, or do you want the grass-fed, the organic, the nicer stuff, because you're touching it, you're feeling it. So then we just started getting better and better and better ingredients and getting better and better relationship with food. Ultimately, we started then cutting out some of the red meats and getting more into vegetables. And, our plate went from just junk to then all of a sudden we're eating, lean turkey, chicken, fish, and then that protein just started getting smaller and smaller and smaller as like potatoes and veggies became more and more apparent. Now we had chickens at the time, and so we had baby chicks. Like I had this little tiny black baby silky chick in my hand. And so then when I see the video of them throwing it in the wood chipper, which I had seen many times before, and all of those like vegan propaganda, like terrible videos, never did anything to me. It never sparked any emotion. I was just like, this is annoying. But the fact that I was holding a baby chick, and then I saw that, and I thought, well, what if I just threw this into a wood chipper right now? And then I thought, wow, I could not do that. Like the feeling all of a sudden inside of me was intense. And then it was just that. I mean, it was done. Flip of a switch. I was vegan from that moment on. Now, with a major focus on health. But from that point on, whatever happened inside of my brain has been a permanent switch. So, have I ever thought about leaving or stopping or any of that? No. But I will say this. I do not see plant-based as a religion, and I don't see it as my identity. Even though I named myself the Vegan Cyclist, that was, in my eyes, a little bit of a mistake, but it's not my core. That's not what I want to lead with. I don't want to meet someone and go, hi, I'm vegan. That's not, I don't ever even want that to be a thing. I want to be introduced as a loving husband, a good father, and a guy who's just badass and does adventures. That's my identity. So at no point do I feel so rigid in that it feels like I'm trapped. I change the way I eat all the time. I mean, I have gone through many variations of the plant-based diet of high carb, low fat. Then I started introducing a little bit more fat into my diet, which I liked way more. I did intermittent fasting for a very long time, very aggressive intermittent fasting, which I absolutely loved. It gave me such control over food, and I've already said this, that I have a major problem with food. So learning how to stare your kryptonite in the face and overcome that, game changer for me. Now, I have since changed a little bit of that. I still intermittent fast 12 to 14 hours a day. That is non-negotiable. I would never eat less than 12 hours. Like, 12 hours, that's barely even intermittent fasting. That's just eat when you're hungry. I've made a change though because I wanted to bring on a little more muscle. A lot of the endurance events that I'm doing actually require more raw power than watt per kilo. And so I wanted to pack on some muscle to become a national champion. And that's where I've gone from 150 to now I exist between 160 to 165. And to do that, protein synthesis was something that I had found was important. With intermittent fasting and only having one meal a day, you kind of pigeonhole your ability to have protein synthesis. So I wanted to eat 3 or 4 times in the day and have a little bit more focus on driving protein into that while also being at a caloric deficit when I want to, so I can be lean and have strength and exist at a higher weight. Now, I'll also say, like, oh, do you secretly eat eggs or steak? Or look, it's just not how it is for me. My gut biome is completely different. And then this gets into some hippy dippy science stuff, but like your cravings are controlled by bacteria in your stomach. It is wild, but when you have bacteria that's feeding off of this stuff and then you don't give it and it starts to die, those signals to your brain get very intense. So then those cravings get very intense. I literally have 0 cravings, period. And that's not me just saying that. It just doesn't happen, which is awesome. But that's also because I'm not deficient in anything. You could say whatever you want that I'm deficient because I'm plant-based, but I'm not. I've had my blood work done a ton of times. I'm not deficient in iron, protein, anything. Blood work as green as it can get. So there is no gaps in my diet because I'm health focused. The last two questions on this: how consistent are you with being vegan, and are your kids vegan? My kids are not vegan. I'm the only one that is 100% vegan. My wife and my kids would be called pescatarian. So they eat a little bit of fish, a little bit of dairy. That's all that they do, but it's like 95% of what they eat is fully plant. So it's like not an issue. And I'm trying to encourage a healthy relationship with food, not make something taboo, not make it, you have to eat this way. And then when my son becomes 18 and he rebels, like, that's not the way to do it. So I want him to have a healthy relationship with food, and fighting him over like having a cookie that has milk in it, or if his friends are eating cheese pizza, that's not the battle. So no, they're not, but no way do I see it as a problem. And then again, how consistent am I? Just whatever it is, for me, man, I'm as consistent as can be. There's no issue. I have no problem being plant-based. I love it. All right, let's talk about relationships. Travis, Chaz, Jeremiah, issues in the industry. Whatever happened to Chaz? Well, Chaz moved away. He moved to the East Coast, so there was no drama or anything. He just, he moved, and he's on a pro team Skyline, and he's trying to race in Europe, and wish him the best. Whatever happened to Travis? What happened to that relationship? Wasn't he supposed to help with ride bikes? All that kind of thing. This one, man, I really like to be as open and as honest as I possibly can, but I'll say this, that I feel like he's young, and if I say anything detrimental, it could affect his future. And I don't want to do that. I don't want to affect his future in any way. This is kind of permanent, so I don't want to put something out there that, could potentially prevent him from having an opportunity. But I will say I gave him 100% of my energy. I invested a tremendous amount of money and time and effort into him during the time we spent together. Some of his strengths, I was hoping I could build on those. And it's just his life does not fit with my life at all. I'm a family man. I live in the woods. He, is a fuckboy and wants to like be around a bunch of other kids his age. Like, that's 19. So he moved to Texas, and that's kind of when the relationship sort of just fell apart. It just was time to part ways. I don't really know what else to say. Like, it just didn't work out. And I wish it had. I saw him as, dude, I'll take you to the moon with me. And he might have a totally different outlook on this and probably say a lot of other things. And he's said some kind of shitty comments here and there on social media, and I just ignore it because it is what it is. But like, I know for sure that I put every ounce of my energy into him to try to make him be the best version of himself. And I hope that when he gets older, some of the lessons that I was trying to teach him, he'll use, and that will be better for him. You've talked a lot about your mom and grandma, but not your dad. Was he not there? No, my dad sucks. And he was never really, like, my mom and him never were together at all. Like, I kind of hung out with him a few times when I was young. I'd always wanted to have a relationship with him, but when I had my son, all of a sudden, every day my son was older, the more I hated my father. And I was like, how could you ever just bounce and leave your kid? I started looking at, like, what if I did the things my dad did to my son? And then I was just like, what a piece of shit. Literally every day my son has gotten older, the more and more I resent and hate my father. He is not a part of my life whatsoever. If he watches this, whatever, dude. You know what I mean? I've given you so many opportunities to be a part of my kid's life, even though I don't want anything to do with you. And the dude is just, he is a narcissist textbook. Maybe that's a little deep, but dude. Two more questions, one about Jeremiah, and then do I have anyone in the industry that I have beef with? Keeping a healthy relationship with Jeremiah when money, sponsorships started coming in. How do you do that? A lot of questions kind of about Jeremiah and my relationship. Look, our relationship is weird because we're business partners. We don't really know each other a whole lot. We have spent a little bit of time together. We have worked really, really, really well together for being so opposite. And that really comes down to trust. And I'm going to get into an issue we had just recently, but essentially he trusts me, I trust him. We don't cross that line. But I will say that the relationship with him over time has grown difficult for me because, one, obviously he wants this stuff on its own channel, its own brand, the Impossible Route to be its own thing. And so then I know it's frustrating for him because it's on my channel, so that he doesn't have a whole lot of control. All the edits are done by me. I have all the footage. Like, I control so much. And so there's a huge amount of trust on his end to me. And I appreciate it. And I recognize it, and I tell him that a lot, how much I appreciate that. But I also have a very clear idea of how I want these to be done, the stories, how they should be told. And I feel like Jeremiah is very, very good at a lot of the things he does. But storytelling is my gift. And so a lot of times I feel frustrated with that we are equal partners on this. But sometimes it doesn't feel like that. And so that's been a point of butting heads. And actually recently with the France film, we had a blowout. In my eyes, overstepped a line in which he came to me and wanted a lot of changes to the edit. A lot of cuts, a different direction. He was putting in a ton of creative. This is where Jeremiah is such an amazing business partner and why I'm so happy to be working with him, because he's not an emotional guy. And I think at that point, a lot of business partners would have just came to a like, hey, this is what I want, yeah, and then just butt heads, and then everything collapses. I have been very flexible in our relationship. I've shown to be flexible. And hardworking. And so when I came to him with this huge blowout, and I was like, dude, I'm over it. And I listed every complaint and gripe that I had ever had. He did not take it personally. And he said, I hear you. I understand. And he took a moment to really listen to the issues that I was having with our relationship. And he came back and said, here's the compromises I can do. And here's how I feel like we can better this relationship. I didn't understand some of these components. One thing is that he had thought I was making a ton of money on ad revenue, which I do not. Jeremiah is an amazing human to be able to not overreact, not get emotional, and not take things personal. So our relationship has gone through a lot of ups and downs, but right now it's at an all-time high. Is there anyone in the industry that you have beef with or can't stand? The media is someone that I can't stand. And I don't have I can't say this one person I don't like, but there is someone or a few people within the cycling media that somehow have blacklisted me in many ways. And it's so very frustrating. And I don't understand why I'm getting this kind of treatment from the cycling media. I'm going to give you some examples. One, Cycling Tips will not write about me, period. No, doesn't matter what I'm doing or how I'm doing it. I've written articles, I've sent them stuff like, hey, can you talk about the Impossible Route? Like, that's a pretty cool news thing. You know what I mean? Hey, I put on this free fondo. Hey, I did this cycling camp. Like, hey. And they all see it. Like, it's red. And it's just not going to happen. So that's kind of like, dude, that's dumb, man. You guys are doing, like, Cycling Tips did an article about the official underwear of the Giro. But what does that really mean? Like, what, dude? The official underwear of the Giro. You're literally going to write that as an article? The other thing is Velo News. I don't understand because Outside TV owns them, and I have a relationship with Outside TV, yet I actually had spent 2 hours on a call with one of their editors about doing a story on Sea Otter when I raced every single bike at Sea Otter, every discipline. And I told this person, I said, it's really weird you're even on the phone with me because this article won't get done. Velo News won't let you publish it. And they're like, that's conspiracy theory. Like, well, that's so crazy. Like, why would you think they wouldn't publish it? Couple hours on the phone, going through the whole story, everything that happened. I mean, this person invested a ton of time into me. 2 weeks later, I get an email saying, the article will not run. Thank you. Is the cycling media, is it just all a scam? That the only way that anyone's going to write about anything is just paid? Because it's not news then. It's not news. Now, I'm not trying to say like, hey, write all about me and I'm all special and all great. But regardless, that's my beef, dude. Is the cycling media is just trash and toxic and it's all paid for. Rapid fire questions. Do you feel like a sellout? No. I feel like my integrity is worth way more than anything, and so I don't really ever sell out of anything. I've never done ad reads. I've never done anything that makes me feel gross. I'm actually really proud of that. I would say I leave $100,000 a year on the table because I don't do ads. So it pisses me off when people are like, sell out, oh, commercial much. It's like, dude, what's your relationship with bikes off camera? I love bikes. I genuinely love bikes. If I was to sell that company and I had $1 million, I would basically just ride motos with my son on my own land every single day for a year. It's one of the reasons why I don't burn out. I genuinely love bikes. How do you balance being real on videos versus being too negative or complaining? When people say I complain, dude, it's a story. Like, what am I supposed to do? It's so boring when people are like, dude, just be more like Jeremiah and stop complaining. So you want a video of just music and no one talking? Cool. I'm a filmmaker. I want to make the film good. I need to tell you how I'm feeling. I need to tell you what's in here, even though a lot of people don't. Comes off as I'm complaining, but I do it. You portray a work-life balance. How accurate is that? I do the unbalanced balanced life. So if you look at my entire year, January to December, it's extremely balanced. I would say every single vertical is like even amount of time into being a parent, into being a father, into being work, into training. It's all equal. It's so balanced. But if you hyper zoom into any one day, week, month, it's completely unbalanced. And to me, the only good things in life come out of chaos. You can't accomplish great things by being balanced and soft and neutral. You must be a maniac to accomplish great things. So I operate in this extremely unbalanced life, which averages out to being perfectly balanced in the long run. Why do you go to an extreme level in cycling? Do you feel you are too hard on yourself, and why? I definitely feel like I've gone to an extreme level. This is actually a really deep question, but like every time you get a dopaminergic kick, you get happy. And the first time I ever rode 1 mile, I had 9 out of 10 happiness in the brain. But now I have to do more and more and more and more and more and more and more. And when I got done with France, I did not get the kick in my brain. And I was so pissed. I'm like, that's not fair. We rode across France and I don't really feel accomplished. I don't feel like it was hard enough. I feel like I want to keep going. I want to go do more. And so it's like kind of unfair that like I have to keep scaling it up and going harder and harder and harder just to get that kick, to get that and that feeling inside. And so, yeah, I mean, I've done some like crazy things in my life, but it's all driven that I do one thing and now I need to do something bigger, better, longer, further, harder. You got to feel selfish sometimes, right? Spending so much time on you, 100%. But this is the way I reframe this, is that the time I spend on me, I am sort of building up this currency. I am gaining this money of me, okay, all this time. And so when I'm done, I'm rich. I have stacks and stacks of currency that then I can spend on my family and my wife and work and other things. And so that's how I see it. So when I ride for 8 hours and it's all about me, I don't feel, or it's very easy for me to return that because I feel rich, I feel fulfilled, I feel full, and I can now share that with my kids and my wife. It's hard to do. It's hard to program yourself to think this way. But when I get done with a big ride, I'm not done. I'm just moving that energy into a new place. And so to me, all the time I spend by myself makes me a better father and better husband. If all I did was sit around and never go ride, I wouldn't be who I am. I wouldn't be as attentive or present but I'm very aware of how my family and my wife and my kids feel. I pay attention to them, and I'm very attentive on what they need. I constantly try to add more and more value to the relationships that I have with my family. And so as long as I'm continuing to try to strive to be better, I have no problem taking weeks to myself because I know, without a doubt, I will return it to them. Have you ever had an eating disorder or tips on how to deal with one? I think I have an eating disorder of too much. I've been very open, like I just can't control what goes in me. I want to eat constantly, nonstop, whatever it is in my brain. I get too much pleasure, and it's never enough. I will go into a feeding frenzy. I will black out. I'll feel fuzzy, and I'm just... It comes from my childhood. My mom would make me great comfort food. Food to me is warmth, protection, safety, love. And so it's a lot, man. I eat and I just feel so happy, and I never want that to stop. So I know people would think I have an eating disorder and that I'm starving myself, but dude, the problem for me is that my eating disorder is going to make me 600 pounds. And so I have to do these things and build these boxes around my life, like veganism and intermittent fasting and calorie tracking and extreme exercise. All of these things allow me to exist with whatever this flaw is, because I can't not eat. If you have a problem with alcohol, you can not drink. I can't not eat. So with all of these things that I've put in place, it allows me to exist with this darkness and it not ruin my life. Do you ever feel salty that other YouTubers, brands have mimicked your editing style? I don't think they have, to be honest. I think my editing style is pretty unique. I really like my editing style. I will say I get very salty at other YouTubers doing really well on perceivingly doing so much less work. Now, I don't want to be a hater, but I've seen people rise up in the industry where I'm like, dude, you're not doing anything cool. Why are you getting all the light? Why are people hyping you up? Why are you becoming famous and you do shit work? I don't want to feel that way. I don't want to feel that way. I feel that way. Last one, real hippy dippy. Do you believe in objective truth or that individual creates their own truth? There's this graph or picture image that I really like, and it's of a cylinder and then two light sources shining on it from different directions, and the shadow is different. So objectively, it's a cylinder, but from one angle, it's a rectangle, from the other, it's a circle. I really like that concept because based on your perspective, you will see truth, and it's how you see it. And it's 100% objective. There's no other, how can anyone else see something different? And yet, from a different perspective, it's different. But it is completely natural for people to want to team up and be on team red or team blue or whatever, and this is how it is and this is how it'll always be, because existing in the gray is uncomfortable. It's very easy to exist in one side or the other side, but nothing in life is black and white. Nothing. Everything is gray. Everything is a spectrum. It just depends, and you'll move along that. One day you'll be here, one day you'll be there. Embrace the fact that life is fluid. We've made 13 videos this month. I've made 8 all year. So in the span of from January to November, I did 8 videos. From December 5th to whatever it is now, I've done 13 videos in 13 days. It's crazy. I think that I've really told some very good stories during this, like layered stories, while I'm telling a story about my life, but also the business, but also a past experience. I mean, the editing on these stories is very difficult, very advanced, and it takes me a lot of time. And so, this one is definitely kind of a mail-in, but still going to take like 3 hours to edit this. So it's, whatever. And I hope that whatever I say doesn't change how you look at me, but it probably will. And this is what I would say to that, is if I said something that you don't agree with or you are offended by, that's great. We can always see different perspectives. But hopefully this gives you more of an insight to who I really am, and I appreciate you. So it's super late. My wife still hasn't come in. She has been full gas with the kids. I'd really love to get her take on a lot of these things, but she's very shy when it comes to the camera. She's not very good at talking to the camera. When the camera's off, she's amazing. But that's why she sometimes isn't on the camera a lot, or it seems like she doesn't want to be on the camera a lot. That's just not her personality. So I want to get her opinion on some of these things. We'll try, but for now, I really appreciate you. Thanks for watching. As always, Vegan Cyclist. Yeah.